Hello and welcome to Sheffield Hallam University's Dying Matters Week series. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by Jamie Denyer. My name is Jess Jenkins. I'm the Chaplaincy Engagement Officer within the multi-faith team, and this is part of Dying Matters Week, which is encouraging and promoting people to talk about death, dying and bereavement. Hello, Jamie.
How are you doing, Jess? You good?
Good, thank you. How about yourself?
Really, really good. Thank you very much. I'm really, really excited to be on. Thank you for asking me.
I'm excited to have you here. Thank you so much. So just to kind of kickstart the situation and the conversation today, can you introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about you?
Yeah, no worries at all. As it stands, 47 years old, got three children, son, two beautiful daughters. My daughters are 13 and 9. My son is going to be 30 in a couple of months. We've got two beautiful grandsons as well. Come from a very, very tight-knit family. Like, family is a really, really important thing for me, if not the most important thing. Yeah, a lot of love, a lot of affection for my family, but we've always given it as a family as well. So it's something that from a young age, I've seen two sides of things. You know, I grew up in a really, really rough council estate, surrounded by drug dealers and drug users. I was witness to domestic violence. I saw two murders by the time I was 13 years old, drug deals that had gone wrong. But I always had this amazing family, like nothing but love, you know, from my mum and my two sisters. My two sisters were 12 and 13 years older than me. My dad left when I was very, very young, but I never missed out on anything to do with love and affection that was given. And, you know, my family were always around me to support me. I had very positive male role models in my life, and my granddad and my oldest sister's husband, because they were together ever since they were like 12 and 13 years old. So my brother-in-law has known me ever since I was born. So I went into work at the age of 13 and a half during like school holidays and stuff like that, in with my brother-in-law's plastering firm. So whilst all my friends were down on Brighton Beach during the 6-week summer holiday catching a tan, I was in some dingy dark basement or on some dusty kind of work site plastering with my brother-in-law. But I was always the one with money at the end of the week, and I always used to, you know, kind of use some of that money to give to my mum, because we were single parent family, rough council estate and stuff. So I learned what paying my way was all about back in the day. And that's a trade that I was in for many, many years. And it allowed me to move from my hometown of Brighton to Essex, where, yeah, I left Brighton when I was 22, moved to Essex. I was there until I was 30. And then it allowed me to move from Essex to Swansea like 17 years ago. And that was my trade. Like, that was like just life as I knew it. But 13 years ago, something horrendous happened, which then a year later put me on a different career path. And that's what I'm doing now. And that's kind of my full line of work of what I'm doing now.
Brilliant, thank you. So I know you've sort of spoken a little bit about some of your experiences there, but can you talk to us about your personal experience with bereavement and loss?
Yeah, my first experiences with bereavement and loss came in what I like to call the natural order, which is my grandparents. Now, that is so many people's first taste and experience of loss and grief and bereavement, because it is the natural order of things. You know, the older you get, the more chance you have of passing away through various different reasons. So that was my first big kind of taster. And of course, you know, it's sad, like any loss is loss, you know, grief is grief, bereavement is bereavement, no matter who has passed away. But like I say, there is a natural order in life. You've got like the grandparents, and then, you know, as you get older, you might experience, you know, then the parents, and then, you know, that can be a real sobering thing that happens, because it's getting closer and closer to your kind of generation. You know, the older that you get, the more dying becomes a forethought, you know, that you're thinking, yeah, you know, I am getting older now, and things do happen when you're older. So that's a good and bad thing, because it kind of teaches you to take stock of where you are here and now, and also to appreciate what you have. But know that that day is coming, because it's going to come to everybody. You know, that's just one of life's certainties. But what really, really shook my world up, and I kind of touched upon it in our last question, was 13 years ago, like the loss that I experienced which I can't explain and can't put into words, was when my 19-year-old nephew was killed by a single punch, a random act of violence. He was out, he was hit from behind, he went over, he hit his head and died of blunt force trauma, which is brain damage. And that is like a grenade going off anyway. But seeing the aftermath of it, I saw people that had witnessed and were experiencing the greatest pain on the planet, bar none, because of that natural order that you see your grandparents, then your parents, and then as you get older, you might lose a sibling, you know, as you are in later life yourself. But the natural order is just thrown out of whack and really hits you is when you lose generations below you. Child loss, the greatest pain on the planet, bar none. And when I saw my sister and my brother-in-law experience that, you know, my niece and my nephew experience sibling loss at such a young age, it really did kind of hit me for six. It took me into places emotionally, psychologically, and mentally that I didn't even know existed. But due to my own, I would say, superpowers of having ADHD and mild autism, it also kind of kicked me into gear that I was able to look at it in a real focused way, that my family is the most important thing to me. And that really kind of kicked into place when I first walked through the corridor and walked into the intensive care unit, and I saw all my family surrounding my nephew, and he was laying there with a neck brace on, tubes coming out of his mouth and his chest going up and down, but it wasn't him breathing, it was the machine that was doing it for him. And each one of my family members were holding a different body part of him. They were surrounding him, and I knew at that moment that life would never ever be the same again. Little did I know that I couldn't even have imagined how life would change after that, because that incident took us into the trenches and it took us into the darkness, because after that we wasn't then just dealing with the loss. We had to go into a court of law and deal with a murder trial where I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. You know, that there really did challenge and test us to every fiber of our being. It took us to the limits, because during that whole process, you know, we were told that if you call out just once, if you interrupt this trial just once, you'll be thrown out, and this whole trial will be conducted behind closed doors. So we had to be very, very cool, calm and collected, no matter what we heard, no matter what stories we heard being twisted, lies being told, character assassination going on. We had to stay silent, because we were an advocate and a representative of Connor's memory at that moment. And we had to show everybody the kind of family that he come from, because one wrong move, it would have been in the papers the next day, Connor Saunders' family thrown out of court for unruly behavior. And then, you know, people are quick to judge. They would have been like, oh yeah, no wonder he was killed through violence, because that's the kind of family he comes from. So that really did test me. But when I look back, it laid the most resilient foundation that I can imagine. Even though I went through the darkness and through post-traumatic stress disorder and depression and stuff, and witnessing, you know, being there for my family and witnessing my family really struggle. In a way, it was preparing us for life, you know, in the future, because we never know what's going to happen. We never know who we're going to lose at any given moment. And it's what kind of challenged me to start up what I'm doing now and doing these educational talks and lectures and mentoring with people about lifestyle choices, about resilience, about you know, mental health and stuff, and how we can turn a negative into a positive, and tragedy into triumph and stuff. And that's how we actually met, Jess. You know, because I spoke at your college, but I do that, you know, all over the UK. And you know, I had that message, but then life evolves and life kind of brings you other tests and challenges. And you can think to yourself, like, look, like life has hit me enough, but life will keep on trying to take from you if you allow it. So it was preparing me for later on in life, and that came on March the 20th, 2020. Another massive form of bereavement was when the youngest of my two older sisters took her own life during lockdown. That again broke me. It broke my heart. I was absolutely devastated. You know, it's not a nice phone call to get when your mum is screaming down the phone telling her baby that her middle baby has just taken her own life. But in that moment, although I was heartbroken, I remembered all the process that I went through with Connor, and that I got through it, and I knew that I was going to get through this. And that's why now, within my talks and actual specific sessions that I do are to do with suicide prevention, to speak about people's purpose and mission and self-esteem and confidence, and give them hope and let them know that they are important. And I prove to them, like during sessions, that they may have a certain way of thinking, but then I prove to them during that session or that talk otherwise, because I kind of ask certain questions and I give them like little challenges. And the answers that they give, I say, well, listen, you've got a purpose and you're important because we've just proved it. But it's amazing how many people think that they're worthless and they haven't got any confidence or self-esteem or importance, and they think life would be better off without them. So yeah, that's my two biggest experiences with bereavement. But ultimately, it's challenged me to make this decision, to make the best of it and the most of it.
Yeah, and you do. I mean, having seen your talks, they are extremely powerful. And I see the response from not just young people, but adults alike that are so connected to you literally instantly. I've never, ever seen a whole room of people connect with somebody so quickly as I have done when people have listened to you. So obviously now you're going around and you're telling people your story, you're giving them advice, you're giving them something to connect to. Why do you think that it's important to speak about bereavement? Why do you think it's important to get people talking about death and dying, which is obviously the point of Dying Matters Week?
Well, talking about anything is the key to everything. Communication and getting your side across, or your opinion, that's the key to so much, and it would end so many problems in an instant, and it would kind of stop a lot of carnage and chaos in its tracks even before it happens. So getting it off of your chest helps other people. Getting it off of your chest helps you as well, because the stuff that we keep inside is not healthy. It will hurt us in mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and physically, because of the trauma that we store in our body. It will come out in physical ways, whether people believe that or not. It is the case. So getting it out is good. Getting it out and speaking about it, what it does is it pays respect to the people that are gone. You are still carrying on their legacy, that they didn't die for nothing, that they were here and they were important. Absolutely. So it's amazing to speak about, because it helps other people, it helps yourself, it pays respect to others. And yeah, we should be, what it also does is it gives us that little verbal reminder that we should be really, really appreciative of every day, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. April the 13th, my nephew was living his life, and he had so much to look forward to, and things were happening for him like massively positive, and it looked like he was going to fulfill his dream of becoming a professional footballer, because of two professional teams, like Premiership teams, that were looking at him and like interested in him. And then April the 14th, his life's ended within a second. So we need to be appreciative of what we've got. Too many people are waking up each day and thinking like, my life is a chore, my life is hard work, but it's actually a blessing. Because when people wake up and they think, oh, I've got to get up today, or I've got to go to work today, or I've got to go to college today, or oh, I've got to go to school today. But if you change one letter in that whole sentence, the game changes. If you take the word got, you take the O out and you put E in, I get to wake up each morning. I get to go to work. I get to go to school. I get to go to college. I get to go to the gym. Like, because there are times when I feel that I don't want to get up at 5:15 in the morning to be in the gym for 6 o'clock. But my nephew loved the gym, so I'm doing something that he was passionate about and like absolutely loved. So yeah, it gives you that. Speaking about death, which is something that it's not morbid. It's something that's definitely going to happen. So if you speak about it, it gives you that reminder to cherish and be grateful for what you have right here, right now, every single day, that I get to get up, I get to go to work, I get to go to school, I get to go to the gym, because there are a lot of people that don't have that luxury anymore.
Yeah, that's extremely powerful. So sort of to conclude this interview today, I just want you to answer me a question, and this just one piece of advice for somebody right now or in the future who is going through the loss of a loved one, who is bereaved. What one single piece of advice would you give to them during that process?
Be appreciative and grateful for the grief, because it is the debt that must be paid. It may sound strange to begin with, but kind of hear me out, because because you can do nothing about this pain. That pain is there, that person is gone. The only way that you can fight back against it is by kind of diluting its power. So you dilute its power by being appreciative and grateful for that horrible thing that's there, because it has meaning. On the spectrum of grief and love, the pain that you feel and the amount of pain that you feel at this moment for losing that loved one is a direct reflection of the love that you have, and will forever have for that loved one. So when I ask people, what would you rather have? Would you rather have less pain now, which meant that you had less love when they were here, less good memories, less time together, or would you have the pain in its form now that you're feeling, and the gravity of it, which meant that you had that gravity of love and that gravity of amazing memories and stuff? And they always say, yeah, okay, yeah, I would rather have the pain to its extent now, because it meant that I have that extent of love of when they was here. So that then loses its power, because it's the lesser of two evils you're actually choosing. You would actually choose to have what it is that you're feeling. And when you're appreciative and grateful for the pain, again, it's that reminder to live, for you to do stuff that they're not capable of doing anymore, and they don't have that luxury anymore. So when you're appreciative and grateful for that horrible thing that can't go away and you can't do anything about, it loses its power in that moment.
Amazing. Jamie, thank you so much. If any of our listeners today would like to find out more about you, where can they find you or give you a follow?
Instagram is at Grief Preacher, or one word, Grief Preacher. Grief Preacher on YouTube as well. But my website is www.jamiedenya.com, and you can get in contact with me that way as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And if anybody would like to speak about anything that's been raised today, you are more than welcome to email the multi-faith team on chaplaincy@chu.ac.uk. Thank you for joining us.